The Common Legend is a podcast for everyone.
Hello and welcome to The Common Legend, where legends are more common than you may think. My name is Sean, and this week our legend is M. Thomsen. M is the director and creator of the recently released and award-winning feature-length film, Tethered to the Ether. He shares with us the story of what inspired him to create this film and how it took him over 8 years to complete. 8 years. Like 8 years. Wouldn't the actors look completely different by then? Well, I guess you're going to have to listen to find out. For those of you interested in checking out M's film, it has officially been released online for free. What are you doing? Click the link down in the description below. So sit back, relax, and find out whether or not M has the heart to kick the puppy. Hello and welcome to The Common Legend, where legends are more common than you may think. My name is Sean, and this week my guest is M. Thomsen. How you doing today?
I'm good, Sean.
Yeah, and M is a guest today because you just recently premiered a film, I think last year.
Yeah, about a year ago.
Yeah. Tethered to the Ether.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was your first full-length feature film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's doing pretty well. It's winning some awards, yeah?
Yeah, I got some awards, about 7 or 8 different, all different levels and kinds of awards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for all kinds of things, right?
Yeah. Best independent film, which is probably the nicest one of all.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in Italy. I forget exactly what city it was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more stuff happening in Europe than here so much.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was doing some research, like lots of Europe, right?
Yeah, lots of European countries and cities seem to be a little more interested in it than here.
Okay. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It might be just that a different sense of storytelling, maybe.
Yeah.
And what to expect visually, from a narrative.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, especially in French films, it's a lot more beautiful visual poetry.
Yeah, and this film is it's pushing the boundaries of magic realism and, kind of a dreamscape narrative.
So what is the film Tethered to the Ether about?
Well, it's about a lot of subjects melting into each other, but it's mostly about lost and unattainable love, about a couple who sort of a young couple that go off the deep end and go for that sort of unthinkable, want to live forever, be together forever through the misguided concept of suicide. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure dual suicide or whatever. And one of them ends up dying in the process and one doesn't. Mm-hmm. So ironically, that brings the distance, the biggest distance you can have, one's alive, one's dead. Mm-hmm. And the sort of crossover in search of trying to reconnect from like a ghostly side, from his side, and from her side, more of a not understanding exactly the hard reality of life and death. And she has these concepts of reincarnation, bringing him back from the dead so she can be with him again. And she almost dies in the process. So there's a point when they're both on the sort of just the edge of life and death together. But they're ultimately separated from that experience that they tried to sort of, make a permanent thing together, but it ended up causing even more division.
Yeah. It's a beautiful concept. The whole, the suicide pact and one person lives, one person dies, kind of like romance story.
Yeah, the ironicness of that happening to where it really just sets a hard line of division.
Yeah. There's no communication to an extent after that.
Yeah. At least, in our reality, she has a different perception and she's suffering from, some illness and some deep-seated depression. And at one point leaves the facilities where she's being attended to for her mental health things, and she stopped taking her medication, and so it's hard to tell what she's imagining and what she's trying to accomplish in the storyline.
It teeters on psychosis, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
I'd say so.
Because I've seen the film. Luckily, Claire shared a link with me, so I was lucky enough to see it.
Definitely parts of it, but then it sort of, skates into an area of kind of a purgatorial place where everyone is sort of just frozen and stuck in their own nightmare as it sort of unfolds. And she just sort of travels through it, sort of like the mystery school of her own doing.
And it's very art house style, correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not very educated. I didn't go to school for filmmaking or art, but I've been sculptor and painter and a filmmaker my whole life.
Yeah, you've actually made a pretty good name for yourself here in Minneapolis, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, traditional Gothic maximalist style.
Yeah. It's been written.
As I've read, yeah, just from what I haven't had the pleasure of seeing any of your work outside of the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've been, how long have you been sculpting for then?
Oh, a good 20, 30 years. When I was younger, I messed around with a lot of different things. And there was a period of my life where as a teen and in my early 20s, I was sort of just off the rails, more experimenting with drugs and alcohol and relationships than I was artistic endeavors. And
yeah, weren't all the greatest artists though.
Yeah. So I found myself in some hard positions. It's where I met the person that I met this young woman who actually experienced this situation. It was in a mental health facility, and she was there, and I was there. We became close friends, somewhat, and she had actually been there because she was committed after the fact of she had tried to commit suicide with her boyfriend, who ended up dying. So it's based on a true person.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then I just sort of, not wanting to really tell her story, although I kind of just did. But
right.
The film is sort of a what would have happened afterward. What if she would have gotten out of the hospital and what, she might have, what might have occurred in her lifetime. If she ever would have tried to, find a way to reunite with him. So
you took the real life shared experience that you learned and you kind of created the potential futuristic or artistic expression of what it could have happened afterwards. So you kind of elaborated on it with your imagination a little bit.
Yes.
That's beautiful. I think a lot of the best art is done that way.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so, you mentioned you were in the mental health facility with this person you met.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going through some rough years of my own, and I kind of pulled it together and was able to leave eventually.
That's always nice.
Yeah,
I've spent months in mental health facilities, so
okay.
Yeah, I know how it goes.
Yeah, and I ended up going back a year later and seeing her again. And,
really?
And even more sort of this story unfolded. Because I think she was sort of there for a much longer time than myself, and as far as I know, she might still be there. But she had told me how she had these ideas of becoming impregnated so that she could reincarnate, bring him back through having a child, and that's where the whole concept of her obsession with becoming pregnant as she's wearing the capsule on her back and sometimes on her stomach.
Yeah.
And visiting his ghosts his ghost in the garden, in the scenes in the garden.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Cinematically, it's beautifully shot.
Well, thank you.
And it's obvious a lot of work went into it. And from what I'm understanding, it took about 8 years to complete this project.
7 or 8 years,
7 or
yeah.
8 years.
It was really supposed to be a much smaller, short story, to be honest. And then it sort of grew into this obsession and people joining in just by accident sometimes through different things, people wanting to help. And then with their backgrounds in film, gave me a bigger opportunity to expand on the whole concept. So I was literally writing it as I went at some points because the story itself just sort of grew and grew, and people came and left, and I had more opportunities to do these bigger things without any finances. So it's hard to turn down opportunities like that.
I mean, yeah, especially because all that stuff, like if you add up what it would cost, like professionally, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. And we were using all kinds of different cameras, very expensive cameras, for one night.
Yeah.
And then professional lighting, and then flashlights, and $1,000 camera of my own, just by myself. And it just turned into this kind of a monster of its own. And it became almost like something I couldn't get out of. So it became like a purgatorial theme again.
In your own life then.
Yeah, in my life, in Claire's life. And there was years when we didn't know how it was. I kept thinking, this is the year I'm going to wrap it up. And it never came and never came. And finally it just got close enough to the edge where I just said, I got to pull this together and finish it. And, there's a couple things I wish I could have tightened up or redone, but I just had to work with what I had and call it.
Yeah, well, it's pretty common. I think most artists know that we can work on a single piece forever if we don't decide when it's done.
Yes, yes.
And you always go back and analyze, oh, I could have done this or I would have done that. But I think that's a very normal part of the process.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it didn't drive you crazy.
Yeah.
In the process.
I started to almost think at the very end that it was not going to even happen. I was just like, I can't believe I'm this close, and I don't think it's going to be ever seen.
Yeah.
Because I just wasn't, we were having technical problems because the technologies had gotten to be so old.
Oh, yeah.
Camera and, well, not so much with the cameras, but with the editing equipment in the computers, and footage being so old that it wasn't being recognized by updates in the computer and the editing software. And I did lose a couple scenes. Luckily, they were insignificant for the most part, but that was a good warning.
Like fire under your ass, gotta go.
Like the bridge is falling apart before I'm over to the other side, and I have to get it to the other side. Otherwise, there's not going to be a bridge to be on.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that challenge with the technical challenge of that.
Yeah, because we were using all those different cameras.
Right. And different software.
Different softwares and different people were doing. I had people storing things for me and editing, and then they were gone out of my life through whatever reason, and getting stuff from them and getting them into another setup and just jumping from platform to platform.
Well, then it's like really a miracle it even
it is.
came
it's
to
a miracle.
fruition.
That's why I just was, I'm going to take what I have and sew this up.
Yeah.
It might be a little too, I mean, I'm happy with it. There's, like I said, there's a couple things I wish I could have done differently, but sometimes people just don't show up. I mean, there was no one was getting paid for anything. So,
yeah.
And people, even if they, people have other responsibilities in their life and kids, or they have kids halfway through the movie and get married or move away.
Who are like 6 years old by the time you shoot again.
Yeah, I was lucky to keep the main actors around as long as they did.
Yeah, and that was Claire Hugesteger, who I went to school with, who I had the pleasure of interviewing. She played Tulip.
Tulip Lanu, yeah.
And that was the main female protagonist.
Yes.
Yeah, but so many challenges, like both practically and technically, that it's amazing you actually made it come to fruition and you're happy with it.
Yeah.
And this wasn't your first dabble in film. You had a short film, from what I was reading.
I had a 15-minute long short that I had done years before. That was well received.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly. I got one or two. I got an award for the best animation, and there was no animation in it. It was really,
who gave you that?
It was just this small. Festival here in Minnesota. I was here in Minnesota. I can't remember exactly what city it was in, but I mean, it was a lot of small objects, and I did do a lot of very micro shots, dark images, and small little things. So I think they just assumed it was claymation or something, but it wasn't.
It was just sculpture work and miniatures?
Sculpture work and just some little creatures. I had birds living in one of my studios, and I filmed them sort of doing their thing. They were literally nesting in parts of my sculptures and
Okay.
insects. I've always enjoyed insects and having little creatures around, and they were sort of like the character subjects of that film.
Okay.
There was no storyline. It was really just a collage of all of the strange different studios I was hopping around to and spaces I was having during that period.
And just cool shots you could kind of gather and
Yeah.
sew together.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
And so you self-funded this project, correct? Out of pocket?
Yeah, and there's no way of knowing how much I really spent, but I didn't keep receipts, and I something I probably should have done for tax reasons, but it was mostly beer, pizza, costumes in the thrift store,
That's tax deductible.
gas,
Yeah.
maybe a new camera at some point I had bought, but I was just using these sort of family handheld digital camcorders.
Okay.
Which I really liked because they were Canon, and Canons have good color even at that level of and they have a few effects in them, zoom, and just a couple things that I could use. It was sort of like a jackknife kind of operation.
It was still digital?
Digital,
okay,
yeah.
It wasn't like high 8 or Super 8 back then?
No. But I did some Super 8 when I was really young, like very young. I had a Super 8 camera. It was the first camera I ever had. And I did some claymation.
Yeah.
And one shot at a time, I had a plunger hooked up to it.
Oh, nice.
And got it developed, and that was again only like maybe a 10-minute thing, but my mother made popcorn, and we set up the screen in the basement, and my little friends came over and watched it.
Debuted your movie at a little premiere.
Yeah,
That's super fun. So was your mother really supportive then? And your
my mother's always
stuff?
been really supportive of my life. Not so much anyone else, but yeah.
I understand that. My mom was my biggest cheerleader too.
Oh yeah.
It's important, I think, to have that supported parents. At least one of them who's just like there for you, setting up little premieres and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. I did some stop motion stuff too with
cool.
action figures. I didn't have the plunger. I wish I did.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I bet it does.
It's programmed for like one frame at a time or something.
So is that when like you started to get into sculpting? Was back then?
Maybe. I mean,
claymation?
I was sort of drawing a lot when I was a child. I was doing a lot of just drawings and paintings. And when I became probably 11 or 12, I started oil painting.
Okay.
Just silly stuff, album covers and crazy stuff that I would see. I would kind of redo versions of them.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way to start learning anything, I think, is just mimic,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the masters did that, and they did their exercises.
Yep.
And in schools, that's the first thing you do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what you just comes to, normally.
Mm-hmm.
You want to just recreate the things that you see.
Yeah.
Until you start jumping off on your own. Yeah, and then just even getting through high school, I didn't do so well in normal classes, but I excelled in my art classes, so they gave me some extra credit for doing extra classes in art and stuff to help me graduate.
So you got by on the seat of your art skills.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And did you then, right after high school, go into a career in art, or what happened after that?
No, like I said, after high school was just sort of turned into a little bit of music and bands and stuff. But that was more than drugs and drinking and, just
the lifestyle,
music, not in a healthy way necessarily. But at some point when I was in some mental health facilities, they recognized some talents that I had. And this is a much different time. This is the late 80s, early 90s. There was different money around and different programs. And they sent me to MCAD to look at the school itself, and had set up a fund for me if I wanted to go to MCAD.
What?
But and so I got to go visit, and to be honest, I was just not in a good enough place to take advantage of it.
Totally.
And I found it interesting, but I was still having too many problems, and it just never happened. And but that was, I always wondered what could have happened if I would have done that, but it didn't.
Well, it's amazing. I didn't know they ever had like programs like that in place in mental health facilities. They're very different now, I would imagine.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, they were worse in some ways, and I think better in some ways, other ways, I should say.
Totally, yeah.
I mean, it was not a nice place.
It's never fun.
Yeah. It was never fun, and this particular place had a reputation that came out years later for certain things. But, I mean, there were some good people working there. There was some, I had some good counseling.
The good staff really makes the difference.
Yeah.
And you notice the ones who are there because they're in it for the passion, the heart's there. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's who I kind of ended up with. I had a couple people that were not good, but I got to experience
some good ones.
And and that that was really strange. That there was like a moment in time where I could have pulled up my britches and went to art school, went to a fancy one.
A nice one too. MCAT's a pretty good one.
Yeah, especially at that time. I think it was kind of hip and wild, back in the 80s and 90s.
It's so great that they set up like even a fund and like exposed you to it, because now like mental health facilities, in my experience, are like they're just there to monitor you, keep you stable. You can't leave, can't open the windows, can't even go outside and smoke a cigarette. Eat 3 square meals a day, maybe some arts and crafts, go to bed until you're okay. Yeah. So that's pretty great. And when you're depressed, I don't know what you're in there for, obviously, but when you're depressed, that's a hard place to find any kind of inspiration or creativity. It
is. I think that's why it didn't work out so well for me as far as like being turned on by, I think that was just too much. MCAD and that opportunity was too much at the time. I just wasn't in a place. And then, of course, time passed and it just never lined up again. But
yeah. Well, don't worry about what could have been, because you didn't go and you're still doing great things in the art world.
Yeah. I just, figured out how to do it either way.
Yeah. Life finds a way. So then you got into like the music scene, you said, the partying and drinking. What was your favorite, like alcohol, uppers, downers? What was your DOC?
Well, there was a time I was living, after I got out of the mental health facility, I jumped into a house that sort of saved me, but it was also really crazy. It was a house in Minneapolis over by the U, and it was a lot of younger friends of mine who came from, I'm from Austin, Minnesota, Hormel.
Okay.
And a lot of my musician friends that were a little younger than me had established sort of a band party house over by the U. And a lot of musicians and artists, mostly musicians from Austin, would move into the house, and it was like a large 3-story frat house with one person who went to the U, and everybody else was just
enough to stay in that area.
Yeah, parties, and we practiced in the basement, and there was like 3 or 4 bands that practiced in this one house, and
oh man,
it was just it was fun and it was great, but it was just more of the same, but control a little more. People had your back. So,
like a community.
Yeah, it was like an arts community.
That's pretty punk, right?
Yeah, it was a kind of punk house, sort of rock, everything. And, I met a girl while I was there, a next door neighbor, and she was really stable. And then we had a relationship for like 8 years or so, where I really stopped drinking, and it was just her and I just sort of living our life. She sort of... being with her put the brakes on everything for me. So there was a good 10 years of
calm,
health,
stable.
Yeah, quite a bit more so, for sure.
It's amazing. I've experienced the same thing, and I think it's like almost like an artist's muse. It calms your brain. Someone who's already a little more level. Yeah,
and help you get back in your. In fact, she's pushed me. It was her that pushed me into painting again.
Oh, really?
And so she even bought me some stuff, and just, because she realized I was starting to need something outside of our relationship, which was really amazing of her to notice that and care enough.
Yeah, that's so supportive.
Yeah. So I started painting on some fairly big scale, and moved into, and then of course, ironically, we broke up, but I moved then to Northeast, Minneapolis, where there was sort of a really beginning of an underground art scene. And it was just an accident how I ended up there. So I started to show in these underground, literally underground, in like these basement sort of galleries. And there was bands playing, and it was really wild again.
So you got back into the scene
Back
a
into
little
that,
bit?
but I was a painter and not a musician so much.
Okay.
And coffee shops
Mm-hmm.
and some other more established galleries that were popping up in the neighborhood.
Okay.
So then it was just paintings, and paintings slowly turned into sculptures, and then sculptures turned back into film.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got back into music because I wanted to do the music for my film.
Yeah, because I wanted to touch on that. You did some of the composition and the audio production for it.
Yeah. Yep. And I did probably 90% of the music for the film.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that much.
Yeah. And then I'm guessing 90. I mean, maybe it was
Okay.
more like 85.
Uh-huh.
But a band called Waveless at the time, Jared Sather, who ended up being a cameraman for a while, he had a band called Waveless, and they were just recording some music at the time, and we were using their music just for editing purposes because I didn't have some stuff recorded at the moment.
So like filler? Or...
Yeah, filler, just to sort of put action to, and just have as sort of like a reference of energy. And they were happy with me using some of it, and so some of it I just kept in place of where we were using it. And so you hear like a couple of actual rock tunes in the film. And then the stuff I did was more incidental and background music and film score type things.
Yeah, you actually scored it, then you sat down and...
Yeah, loosely.
Okay.
It wasn't like, composing to the image on the screen so much as just finding it where it fits. And sometimes it would be magical and fall right into position, and sometimes you had to tweak it a little bit or cut it, George Heck, who was another person who really brought this film to a final ending and finishing process. He taught me how to edit, and Jared Sather worked for him. It kind of gets crazy, but they came on board at the end and helped me really learn and finish all the stuff up.
So you were learning as you went too.
Yeah.
Even though you had already done your short film, I was reading that you were like still learning Final Cut while you were cutting this together.
Yeah, I'm learning Final Cut and the editing process and the sound process.
Yeah. It's kind of fun learning as you do, like having your vision and then like just kind of filling it in and like, oh, I don't know how to do this. Well, I guess I have to learn.
Yeah. Well, I had people who knew, and they would like sort of force me to learn with them.
Yeah.
Because they wanted me to have the skills, which was really cool.
That's great. So, and you took like so many of your talents then and put it into this, and your sculptures are all over the film.
The sculptures and the sets, I built a lot of the sets.
Yeah.
Although I had some help with some of the bigger sets also.
And some of the costumes, right?
Mark Wojan, he's a local artist who has a space that we used his space, and he built an amazing set in his studio for me.
Okay. Mark Wojan?
Mark Wojan.
I'm not familiar. I have to check him out.
Yeah, he works mainly in film. So
that's amazing. So and when did you come into music? Like, I know you started pretty young with music. Like, did you pick up a guitar? Or what was it?
Well, I just picked up I was literally a pawn shop guitar I got when all my other friends I had some friends that were really good musicians already at that point. Okay. They started really young. And then I had friends who were just picking them up for the first time and just wanting to play punk rock stuff.
Yeah.
So I just got a crappy old guitar, and I made this awful noise on it for years. I mean, and it wasn't good or anything right off the bat. And I played in sort of a lot of experimental noise bands and punk type stuff.
Yeah.
Where it was just more thrashing energy, but it was cool. I mean, we had fun.
I was about to say, it seems like a lot of fun just to kind of get it out,
Yeah, then I took it more seriously as I got older, but it was more of a personal thing where I just played and recorded at home and, different experimental things.
So you're still playing to this day just for fun by
Oh
yourself?
yeah, I was playing all afternoon
Oh, were
before
you?
I came over.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I'm working on some new recordings. I'm also doing some synth and key stuff,
Oh, fun.
and I've been doing that for a friend of mine who is doing some AI sculptural video art,
Okay.
and he's using my synthesizer and keyboard stuff for
To
that.
like generate imagery and
Yeah,
models?
yeah, just
Cool.
images and things that are morphing all over the screen.
Fun. Yeah.
And it's a good exercise for me to have someone to work with,
Totally.
and it pushes me to keep creating, and sharing stuff. And he's also helped me with film things too. So it's
Wow.
always just sort of,
Learning and
sharing and
collaborating. And was the collaboration aspect of making a film difficult for you? Did you have much of that from like music and stuff before? Or?
on this film, you mean? Or?
Yeah, and you're untethered to the ether.
Well, just this, like I said, just the stuff I got from Jared Sather and his band Waveless, which was great.
I was thinking more
Yeah,
like collaboration in the sense of like bringing all these different, like the cameramans and the crews and the keys and the actors. Like that's a huge level of collaboration.
yeah, yes.
So was this like your first time like doing that? Were you
Yes.
kind of learning that as you went too?
Yes, I was learning how to do that, and I've never really worked with anyone ever until I worked with Claire.
Yeah.
So it was just Claire and I at first, and then other camera people. Damien Cushionen is someone that I met. He's another local videographer guy, if I'm saying that right.
Mm-hmm.
And he met me doing an interview about a show I had about my sculptures. And he was asking me, like, well, what's, new for you in the future? And I had just, at that point, started thinking about this film. And I told him, well, I think I'm going to jump into like this film idea I have. And he said, well, I want to be your cameraman.
Oh yeah.
I can do this for you. I can do that for you. And I was a little overwhelmed. And at first I was just like, I don't know, collaborating that much with someone just scared me. And he brought it to the table and brought people over and gear and set up like this big shoot. And we did some work. And so we had big shoots sometimes, and sometimes it was just Claire and I running around in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Damien is responsible for a good amount of the film that you see, actually.
I was about to say, he looks like he played a pivotal
Over the
role.
years, he did.
Yeah.
We clashed a little bit at times, and at some point, I sort of just decided to move on my own. And then I did meet George, and George he's not really a cameraman, but he ran a film studio that did commercial stuff.
Okay.
And Jared had worked for him doing the camera. But George was and is an excellent professional drone guy.
Like video flying?
Video flying,
Okay.
the drones. Yeah. And I was just like, man, let's do some drone shots.
Use that, yeah.
Yeah, which was, cool. And so he did some drone work.
Okay.
For me. And then he was later on taught me to edit, and I traded him some artwork, and I did do some trades.
Trades are how we get by as artists, right?
Yeah.
Scratch your back, you scratch mine. That's amazing. Yeah, I asked that question because I know like your mediums before, like sculpting and painting, are really solo kind of endeavors, right? You sit down, your craft, and you sit down, and you get to work, and it's all in your head.
Yeah.
It's all up to you.
Yeah.
So when you had this idea and you just mentioned it to him, and he kind of just was like, yes, I'm going to help, and gave you all these resources, that's when you really like started. That's
when it started to turn into a bigger thing, I think, for sure.
Okay.
Because then I have a camera guy who was a very expensive camera, and he's bringing over lights, like a van full of gear with assistants.
And you're like, holy crap.
Yeah, in my backyard. I mean, a lot of that stuff was filmed in my backyard.
Yeah.
I have this huge yard, and it was like this old British flower garden that had been there for hundreds of years. And it was really large, but it was really unkept. And because it was from other generations of people who lived there. It's an old house, an old Northeast family. It's been part of the Polish community for a long time. And So what happened is I noticed that it had been taken over by this vine that just covered the entire garden. And so I started to build trellis type sculptures so the vines would go upwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I just sort of turned it into a giant soundstage over a couple summers into like this jungle.
Yeah.
And I cut paths through it, and we just turned, a place the size of maybe this living room and that room and your maybe the half of your house size.
Okay.
It was a pretty big area, but once you grow at about a story and a half high, you can, it became like a outside studio.
That's so cool. That must have been such a fun project too.
It was. I have a bunch of people running around out there and,
Yeah.
and setting lights up into all that stuff. And,
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you have this like actual production from your brain. Like,
yeah,
poof.
yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. Nicole Bell is who I wanted to mention. We did used a lot of her songs.
And she was an actress in the film.
She was an
too.
actress. Yeah, she played the sort of the devilish rabbit girl
Okay. Yeah.
in the rabbit mask, and then later on the Valkyrie helmet that she put on, and then played her lute or whatever it was you call those in the scene in the ballroom.
Mm-hmm. Just beautiful. I mean, and all these people that like you brought in and made this happen, all volunteers or trades, right, for the most part, and then everything else out of pocket.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of my big sculptures are now in people's living rooms and
Yeah.
small pieces and drawings and.
That must feel really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to have them in places where they can be seen and
Yeah.
people can have them, and yeah.
So now that your film has I think completed your festival run, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty much done with that.
Okay. First of all, were you able to attend a lot of those like international festivals?
I didn't go to any of them.
Really? Not one?
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, I'm kind of a shut-in. I don't even like to really leave Northeast that much.
Yeah.
This was easy, of course, and I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, for sure.
And, people want to have brunch with me in South Minneapolis, and I'm like, I'm not getting up before noon, and I'm not going down to South Minneapolis.
Yep. Yeah, we kind of bonded over this because I'm the same way. Like I love my house. I have my house set up perfectly where it's comfortable. I like to stay in North. Like,
yeah, I have a part-time job in Northeast, and I have my restaurants and my, little places I go to and grocery store. And there's some places I venture out to, but there are places I've been going to for years. So,
okay.
Like in a music store over in Roseville. But, I sneak through the back part of Northeast. I have my little route that I can take.
Yeah.
And,
Until you dock in your comfort zone of the music store.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many parts of the city where parking is so hard and everything is so crazy. I just like to, Northeast has changed quite a bit, but it's still old school to me.
It has changed a little bit, but yeah, the heritage here in this part of the city, it's really nice.
Yeah.
You don't get it in a lot of other places.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, for sure.
Did you see that Betty Dangers just got bought by someone finally?
I heard that just
recently.
some
big star or something.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be like a Texas taco joint.
Oh, let's see.
That's what I said. I was like, Texas, this day and age in Northeast?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, well,
we'll see.
If it's good food.
Yeah. So now that you've pretty much completed the film festival circuit and you've won these awards and it's done, what's next? Do you have something on your brain as far as like film projects go? Or do you want to springboard this into something else? Or is this like your one and done, your swan song?
It's not. I'm tossing around something right now and I've talked to a couple people, and I wrote something over the winter, and it might be a little too big because I don't plan on spending years doing
not another 8 years on this one.
Yeah, and I want to take what I learned and try to condense it into something that's probably not even as long. It might not be a feature film, somewhere in between a short and a feature maybe. But yeah, it's hard to tell. It's very open still, and but I'm definitely, yeah. I have a lot of models, miniatures that I built for Tethered to the Ether that never really got used. I don't know if there's a few miniature sets in Tethered to the Ether, and some people don't even notice them. But um, 'cause I think it's like some old building I shot in the dark somewhere. But
Because they're so beautifully done.
yeah, well, they're pretty dark too. The lighting is really dark.
That helps, yeah.
It helped, although there's like so much of the detail work that I didn't get seen in the movie. So it's like I put billions of hours into this, and you can't even see like, there's like yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that.
So that was a weird thing, but I still have these entire buildings and things and sets that I never used, and I've even worked on them since because they're just become such a it's a sculptural thing too. And I want to do something that's really more pushing and based on the miniature sets.
Okay.
And putting real actors in these little vignettes, and stuff.
Fun.
So something's going to happen.
So
I
you
just
have
don't
some
know
ideas.
what and how and where.
Yeah.
But
okay, well that's exciting. I'm glad that you're still like thinking, you're still creating. Like I'm excited to see like where you go in the future.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. If you ever need any help, I'm right down the road.
Yeah,
so,
cool. Well, that's nice to have.
Got another resource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
That's amazing. And I know this film, so it premiered 2023 October, if I'm remembering correctly.
That sounds right.
About
it was
then.
October. It was probably that year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's still not publicly available currently.
It will be any day, I think. Actually,
Yeah?
I just need to. It's supposed to be about now.
Okay.
I just need to put it into motion with the guy George is gonna throw it online for me.
Okay.
He still does like a lot of the computer stuff. So for him, it's like 2 seconds. So he does it. He was gonna put it on YouTube, but yeah, I've run the circuit, for about a year, and you don't want to. I don't know. I just feel like it's time to be done with that.
I think it's about average for like 6 months to a year, to run circuits for films before they come out.
Exactly.
So yeah, well, hopefully, if by the time this episode airs, we have a public link, I could throw it down so people at home who are listening can check it out.
I'll get to you like within the next few days or this week.
Totally, yeah, because I think some listeners would absolutely love to check out the film.
Yeah, great.
Get you some real views, and get some more eyes on it because I think it deserves some more attention.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Another homegrown, like Minnesota creative talent, and we're a melting pot for it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you were born, you said Austin?
Austin, Minnesota. Yeah, okay. Right down south.
Okay. So when did you come down to the cities?
I moved to the cities about 99, 2000.
Okay.
And I've been living in Northeast for about 20 years now.
Yeah, in Northeast, this area we call home, you did a lot of the shooting for this film, like guerrilla style, at locations that aren't even there anymore, right?
Yeah, all over Northeast and out a little bit, but mostly Northeast. And some places were being ripped down like the week after we were there.
Yeah.
Just old buildings and crumbling ruins.
Yeah, like really cool visuals.
And they had been there for all these years. It's just that with the amount of gentrification that's going on and new stuff, I just started to use all those places and just get them on camera before they were gone.
Right.
Literally just one place after another. It was like a week later or a year later or a day later, the bulldozers were showing up. And I'm like, wow, we just were there
just
last
in
night.
the nick of time.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And some other places down along the river, some that are a little more farther down away. But
we still got some pretty cool ones I keep seeing, around.
Yeah.
We're not at a shortage for them over here.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I can use before it's gone.
Okay. So are you currently working on any sculpture work too? Any galleries you plan? Because I know you've done a lot of stuff with Rogue Buddha.
Yeah, Rogue Buddha. Yeah, I got a series of these clay tablet sort of things I'm making to hang on the wall. I'm trying to get those done to maybe get on the wall for Art Whirl this summer, or soon this spring. Got another sculpture that I play with, that I've been playing with on another table that's over here. And then I have I have like a lot of different stations around my house. I have a front room, dining room that's full of my large buildings and my miniature sets. So when I want to film, I can go in there. And then I have another desk with my computer and my recording equipment set up.
So your house is like one big studio almost.
Kind of, it's people think it's neat, but it's kind of hard too because I've had actual studios in the past, and I've lived in my studios, and they're more studio than a living situation, like a hot plate and a bed in the corner.
Yeah.
And now this is more of a house, which is nice, and my projects are set up here and there, and sometimes it's hard to keep everything mentally.
Oh yeah, because your office is your home.
Because there's a pile of dirty laundry right underneath my guitar amplifier, and and then there's paint, something drying and on top of my bed or something.
Yeah, and you're like cleaning brushes next to the dishes. And stuff like that.
That's a good example.
Yeah. I know how that is. Like even here, you see like studios kind of tucked in the corner of my house, but like I'm new in this house, so I can already see like I'm gonna do this there, and then I'm like, okay, hold on,
yeah,
you need to live somewhere.
Yeah, you want to live somewhere, and you want it to be not crazy.
Yeah, totally.
But at the same time, it's kind of nice just to be able to turn around and do whatever.
Yeah, or wake up and it's right there. You don't have to go and make it like a chore or an errand, a destination.
Yeah, and pay rent for another place somewhere.
That's the big part. That's the rent part. Yeah. Especially now. Like,
That's the downside for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I had a whole floor of a school building that was, I did share it, but he had an apartment up front, and then we had a bathroom, which we each had a door to a bathroom with a shower, and he had a full kitchen. I had sort of a half kitchen. But I had one giant room after another that was just high ceilings. Loading dock was all mine. Mm-hmm. And I was paying $400 a month.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
And living there.
That is so like
it's a nice
impossible now.
Yeah, we had it, and it just all of a sudden one day some guy with big pearly teeth pulled up in an Audi and bought it from my old school landlord. Wrote a check, bought it, and then he just said, "Well, you can double the rent and have a closet space or leave."
Yeah.
So
you were just pushed out then? Pushed
out, but luckily I found a cheap house across the street, and I've been there ever since.
Okay. And
I'm still getting away with murder for Northeast as far as low rent.
Okay. Oh, so you're renting it in by?
Yeah, I'm renting still, but it's I've been there for a long time. The guy is like old school Northeast family house, and he still comes by and just gets the rent in cash at the end of the month.
Sweet.
Sometimes he forgets and doesn't show up, and I'm like, I have to call him and say, "Hey, I got
want
rent
your
for
money?"
you. So
that's a sweet situation.
It's still it's not $400, but it's still nice.
Because rent you're looking at some one bedrooms are like $2,200 for the nicer ones, but
I got a yard and a driveway and a garage.
And you got all this beautiful like room to work with and create like your sound stages or your stages and sets.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice.
So you moved down here from Austin, and is your family still back in Austin? Do you have any family down here in the cities?
My mother and sister are around. They had just recently moved. I think they're in Hastings now. Okay. So that's about it. My family is mostly my friends and
the family, the chosen family.
Yeah. I mean, I love my mother and my sister. God bless them. They're my family for sure, but my family's more so the people I hang out with.
Mm-hmm. Is your mother still very supportive of your creative stuff?
Oh, she is. She's just very, she's getting on. She's elderly and she's having just her own problems now. So I just talked to her today. I see her when I can. I haven't been to this new place, but she was in Shakopee, so I would drive down there once every other weekend and take her out for lunch.
Oh, that's nice of you. Yeah, good son.
Yeah, well,
I mean, she was so supportive. I mean,
yeah.
It's just really nice of you. I know a lot of people who don't see their mom ever, or take it for granted,
Yeah, she's, like I said, she's getting older, and I want to see her as much as possible.
Absolutely, yeah. Any children, wife, you're married?
Nothing, no.
No?
No. But, in and out of some relationships. I haven't been in anything for quite a while. I'm sort of just working on myself and my own thing nowadays. No kids.
Super important to work on yourself.
Yeah.
It's underrated.
I have a hard enough time babysitting and I'm my own child.
Yeah.
I'm constantly taking.
Oh no, I get it. Yep. And a relationship can complicate things so much.
Yeah, and I want to do it right if I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
don't-
absolutely.
So pets come and go.
Mm-hmm. Are you an animal lover? Do you have any pets?
I love animals, but
Okay.
there's no pets allowed where I live, and so it's just
Oh.
made it sort of the choice easy.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
house sit for friends and take care of their animals.
If you could, are you more of a dog guy or a cat guy or
I guess cat.
cat? Yeah.
Yeah, I love both of them, but I've had a couple cats.
You might be able to pick up on. I just got a woke up puppy whining at us casually in the
Oh,
background. I don't know
yeah.
if the viewers at home can hear. They're
I
familiar.
didn't notice, but yeah.
Yeah, it's little, but yeah, I'm a dog guy, but I do
Yeah.
love me some cats.
Yeah, I love
they
them
keep to
both.
themselves. Did you grow up with animals then, or?
It was a family dog my dad had, but it was like he was always trying to make it be a show dog or something weird, and like I
Like that.
couldn't be around my dog, or it wasn't really my dog. It was more like his project.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I guess thank you so much for taking a moment to talk about like your
Yeah.
film in such detail. Like
No, thanks
it
for
was so
having me,
fun to
Sean.
hear about like the inspiration, especially that coming from like a real life experience and then kind of transformed into this, and seeing how like you had no experience in this and then you made it happen and you got some awards and you're on to more. Like it's beautiful to see.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, and I'll let you know when it comes out. soon
Absolutely,
this
yeah.
week.
I'd love to share the link, with
Yeah.
people so they can have a chance to see it. I thought it was fantastic. And just visually, like if you love visual poetry, in my mind, is what it was. It's cinematographer's wet dream. Like every shot was so meticulously curated and like well thought out, and every detail
Well,
down
that's
to the
great
little
to hear.
sculptures.
That's really nice of you.
Absolutely. Fantastic job.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, just if we could wind down just with some more casual questions, so
Sure.
people could get to know the man behind the film. If you could have dinner with one person, alive or dead, throughout history, someone you know, celebrity, anyone, who would you be, and who would it be, and what would be the first question you would ask them?
Well, the person, one of them might be Mario Bava, an
Not familiar.
Italian filmmaker, which he's definitely passed now. And I don't know he was sort of the Italian Hitchcock of the day back in the 60s and 70s,
Okay.
maybe a little bit of the 80s.
What would be the most pressing question you'd want to ask him then?
Gosh, I really don't know.
You had your first drink, you're sitting across from me like, oh, Mario Bava. Was there a favorite film of his?
Well, that's what I was trying to think of. I mean, he's done so many films, and I do get that mixed up with Dario Argento, who worked with him as a cinematographer and then became one of my second favorite filmmakers. They did a lot of giallo films, which are sort of these, again, Italian Hitchcock type situations. And I think Mario Bava had done Lisa and the Devil, which was one of my favorite all-time films, and AKA The House of Exorcism. It was actually called House of Exorcism first, but they were sued by United Artists because The Exorcist had just come out.
Oh my God.
And or The Exorcist came out first, I think.
Yeah, but come on, the word exorcist.
Well, there was a little more to it than that.
Oh,
There was
okay.
like a heavy storyline that there's basically two versions of that movie now, because the genius of Mario Bava and Argento is that they made House of Exorcism, but they made it so able to divide it into two films that as soon as they had been sued for whatever elements of it, that they just eliminated half of the film and made the other half this brilliant film that worked.
Wow.
So they just re-edited it, and there was like some vomiting of like frogs and stuff and head spinning stuff that was a little too on the nose.
Yeah, a little too much for him.
The people who did The Exorcist. And to be honest, I'm not a big fan of blood and gore and guts. I mean, it's effective when it's sometimes, but they ended up making then it became Lisa and the Devil, and it was much more of a beautiful dream film. And again, it was a big influence on my film, actually, because it was kind of about ghosts and love affairs and realms of being trapped into like sort of this place of not being able to finish the story, the love story, because of otherworldly entrapments and
Okay.
Unfinished business in life.
So a lot of elements that kind of echo in your film.
Yeah, Elke Summers plays the main female in that, and it's a lot. It's really is a lot comes from that movie.
Okay.
If you ever get a chance to see
Lisa
it,
and the Devil.
Lisa and the Devil. I would
Okay.
watch that version of it.
Okay.
It's really pretty much hard to see the other version, anyways. It's hard to find. It's just gorgeous.
I'm excited to check it out. I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, yeah. So back to your question, I really can't tell you, except for maybe I would like to ask him something about that film.
Okay.
But again, I can't remember which one made it. They were kind of, one was working for the other, then they did projects together, then Argento moved out onto his own. He became a little more campy, a little more 80s and
Okay.
spoofy kind of things. But when I was a little kid, those sort of movies were on late night television.
Okay, so that's what your late night was.
Yeah, I remember seeing these when I was just way too young to even be seeing them. But
Yeah.
I grew up in the 70s, and parents were like they were out partying and stuff. And
Yeah.
you're lucky if you even had a babysitter, it was just the television and you're at home and
TV and a frozen dinner where that was your babysitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like parents were out swinging at cocktail parties and stuff.
Man, the 70s.
So I got to watch just, stuff was just on TV and
Yeah.
late night.
That's funny. I have a huge love for horror and stuff too, and that's where mine came from. Was late night, when the parents were doing their thing, whatever was on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny that that's the same. What would be your biggest regret in life so far, if you have any?
That I maybe would have got started a lot earlier on some of these things, and I mean they might not have happened the same way, so it's kind of redundant. But just in general, I wish I could have some of those years back that I was sort of, practically homeless and messed up all the time and sleeping on couches and just going from one, yeah. But, I've been drawing a lot from those situations now.
Totally. Yeah. They're
I
really
think
shaping your stuff now.
if you can keep something out and get something out of them,
Yeah.
at least you're getting some use out of that.
Right. I totally get the regret for wasted time though. You're like, oh, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
So on the opposite end, what do you think is your biggest accomplishment in life so far?
Probably this film.
I was about to say, is it the film?
I mean, I've done some pretty big sculptures and I've had a couple big shows.
Yeah.
And they were the biggest thing at that point. But since I've started and finished this film, it's definitely this.
Well, yeah, it's huge, man.
Just because it's long. I mean, it's full feature and everything
feature.
too. And there's just so many things that, like I said earlier, I regret not having a few things tied up. They were really beyond my ability to do so, unless I would have taken more time. But I didn't. I was running out of time.
Yeah.
Losing material.
Yeah.
So, what was the question? I forgot.
What's your most biggest accomplishment?
Oh, yeah. So this film, but I don't want it to be, I'd like to, not always try to outdo myself, but I want to, be able to feel like the next thing I do, or that I have other big things that I want to still do before
Yeah. It's a huge accomplishment. It's always been a dream of mine to do a full-length feature. And just you're so inspiring in that sense that you could do it out of pocket. You can do it when you didn't go get that degree from that art school. You can do it with just friends and what you got. So
Yeah. Well,
it's a huge inspiration.
Yeah. Well, it's a great compliment, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, final question. It's an ethics one. I just like to end it on something whimsical.
Yeah.
Would you kick a puppy as hard as you could, knowing full well you'll probably end that puppy's life, to save 100 strangers' lives? I know. There's no right or wrong answer.
I had the answer before you finished the question. It's like, no way am I going to kick a puppy.
No, of course not, right? Okay. I'm the same boat. What if it was 100 people you knew personally?
Well, I try to figure out how to kick that puppy with like fast and hard in the head. I don't know.
Just end it quickly.
Yeah, if I could
Mercy
do it,
kill.
if I could make it like a death karate death move.
Yeah, like the
instant
death punch or the pinch.
Yeah. If I could pinch it like a little nerve on the back of his neck.
But a resounding no initially.
Yeah,
I mean, come on. I can't disagree with you there.
I don't know. Yeah, I think I might just not kick the puppy, and I don't know. I'm not sure.
I know it catches people off guard. I'm sorry. It's it's just kind of a thing now. It
It's
just
your
happened.
thing. That's your trick question.
Well, thank you so much again for coming on and talking. I can't wait for people to hear your story. Just one last thing. Can I get a picture of you to sign and throw on the wall, Legends?
Sure.
Great. All right.
Love that camera.
It's so fun. Pose pretty. All right. Thank you so much.
What camera is that?
It's a Instamax Mini 40.
Wow.
Yeah, about $100. Not bad. Yeah.
The common legend.